That's a verse we usually recite before Dharma talks in Sesshin, and we've decided to do it downtown before Dharma talks, and I think we'll do it here on Sundays too. So we'll have to make sure everybody has a copy of it before we do it again. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for coming and supporting each other in sitting. This is a practice that depends on other people to help support us, encourage us, and sustain us. We've just finished the August 2010 Sesshin. This was a Sesshin entitled Grasses, Trees, and the Great Earth. For those who are relatively new, Sesshin is 7 days of silent retreat, meditation retreat. This one was also about Jizo Bodhisattva, who is our particular embodiment for this temple. If you haven't visited the Jizo Garden, please visit the Jizo Garden, and please come to Jizobon, our festival on Saturday, starting at 3. We hold this annually I think this is our 3rd or 4th, and it just gets better every year. So it starts with painting lanterns for a lantern procession later on, and then formal Japanese tea. Tea ladies come and dress in kimonos and set up a little tea room over in the guest area, and they serve 2 settings of tea and explain about Japanese tea, and everyone gets tea and a sweet. And then there's beautiful shakuhachi music by an American shakuhachi teacher who trained classically in Japan and is a wonderful player. And then there's a simple supper, and then there's a puppet show, all new this year, new script, new puppets, loads of fun for all ages. And then when night falls, we do a procession through the Jizo Garden with our lanterns, with some guest appearances by hungry ghosts in the forest, and then we come in and do the Jizo ceremony here. Yeah, it's a good evening. Good day and evening, so come for all or part. So this Sesshin was also about aspects of Jizo Bodhisattva. It was a different Sesshin. Each of our Sesshins has a theme, but this one was scheduled to be different than our usual schedule. So we got up an hour later than we usually do for Sesshin, so that we could sit at night out of doors for an extra hour from about 9:30 to 10:30 or 11. People found places in the forest on purpose, away from being able to see the monastery. So you couldn't see the lights. I learned that in one of the first ones we did, where somebody told me that this is a school teacher, they sat at the very edge where the light from the building stopped and the dark from the forest ended, and they sat so that one eye could see the light part of the monastery, and then the other part could see the dark. And so if they got really scared, they could look that way and see the mothership. And then they dared to close their eyes, and they were convinced every minute that the coyotes were sneaking upon them, and the slightest touch on their skin made them jump. They were now being eaten. And those of you who sat in the forest this week know some version of that. It's always more fun when the coyotes howl nearby. And then you think, can I get to a computer and find out if coyotes have ever eaten people or not? There are all kinds of phenomena that happen at night, which we usually don't know about because we're not out at night. We're out at night in an artificial lighted environment. filled with people and all kinds of excitement, or we're inside our car, but we're not really out at night, as we were for hundreds of thousands of years of our evolution. We were living out in nature at night. And we had to keep our senses open, had to learn to see at night. One of the interesting discoveries is you can see a lot more than you thought at night. When it seems to be pitch dark, it actually isn't pitch dark. Even when the moon's not out, you can still see quite a bit. And of course, if you lived your life developing that skill, you'd be very different in your perception of, quote, night. So this is a natural environment for us that we evolved in, being out in nature at night and not being able to see well, so having to open up all of the other senses to be very alert. So the senses in the feet, for example, people find it's a very beautiful practice to walk around at night without a flashlight. I really discourage people who are practicing here from using flashlights. There's plenty of light, and you discover that when you go out without a flashlight in the forest and you're trying to walk the path, and the only thing you have to guide you is the bottoms of your feet. So you have eyes or sensors in the bottoms of your feet that can feel when you're on the path and when you're off the path. Very, very interesting practice to go out of doors. You discover something about the various things that happen in the forest, that things are always dropping, and you don't know, are they animal, vegetable, or mineral that are dropping down? But it keeps you quite alert when things drop down, especially if they drop on you. And then when things, after the forest gets over the terror of you, this huge crashing animals, snapping branches and crunching your way, and finally settling down on your crunchy tarp, and finally sitting, and then you settle, and you settle, and you settle, and then you hear the forest begin to come alive again, because they're hoping that you're not going to harm them, more than you're hoping that they won't harm you. And then the little things come out, and you get to experience what's out there at night. My favorite are, I didn't know what these were, but Gemyo could see them when he was out, and he could actually hear them. They make a very high-pitched little sound. They're shrews, and they bounce. They go boing, like little kangaroos. They go bouncing from place to place. They're quite tiny, and usually you can just hear them. He actually had two of them bounce right across his lap. Imagine how that would wake you up. So there are many interesting and funny stories that people have from sitting outside in the dark and all their reactions to the various things that happened, getting lost and so on. And at lunch, if you want to ask the people who are doing the Sesshin, they can tell you their experience of being in the dark.